NXT starts off with Joe Hendry. Starts off with him cutting a promo. He ends up cutting the typical babyface promo you get after they win a championship. Talk about the struggle, the hardships, talk about what it took to become NXT champion, how they're going to be a fighting champion, how they're going to defend the championship, and how they try to maintain being champion. Then we get Vanity Project. They interrupt. They come out. You get Jackson Drake. They mentioned that they attacked him to prevent him from winning the NXT championship and how they failed. And now they're trying to get payback and trying to make sure they finish the job. You get Joe Hendry. He attacks the Vanity Project. They end up getting the upper hand. They jump him. And then it ends with Jackson Drake standing tall. He ended up holding the NXT championship, which, I'm going to be honest, the NXT championship actually looks really good on him, mainly because the Evolve championship looks very similar to the NXT championship, so it's not that much of a difference. But this does end up setting up an NXT championship match later in the show. They end up having a one-on-one match, which was actually a really solid match. Joe Hendry ended up picking up the victory. Vanity Project ended up getting kicked out from ringside. The referee ended up catching him cheating, so he ends up throwing him out. This allowed Joe Hendry to have a clean one-on-one match where he does pick up the victory. After the match, though, Ricky Saints comes out, attacks him, and then ends up holding the NXT championship. I like what they did here. I like that they gave him I like that they gave Joe Hendry a quick little title defense. I was a little concerned because I was like, I don't know if Jackson Drake should be the first person that he should be feuding with, but this isn't a long-term feud, which I do like. Because I was like, if they was going to have a feud initially to start off with, it should be Ricky Saints or Ethan Page. Because I do think you need more established guys to face Joe Hendry first. Let the newer guys, work their way up. Let them get a little bit more seasoning. Let them, get some more experience before you put them in the main title picture. So I like what they did here. Give Joe Hendry a quick little title defense while also then eventually giving him a more experienced veteran to actually have a real feud with. So I like this idea because Ricky Saints is clearly the best option for Joe Hendry to actually feud with. He's the most complete wrestler out of all of them from a character and in ring wise. Plus, he's a good heel to go against Joe Hendry as well. So I like this perspective as well. Plus, I could actually see Ricky Saints beating Joe Hendry. I don't think he will, but I could see him beating him eventually down the road. You could easily make this a series. You could easily do similar to what they did with Cody Rhodes and Drew McIntyre to a degree. I could easily see this being like a 3-match series. Drag this for a bit. So I actually don't mind this. I like what they did here. This is really good. Love what they're doing with Joe Hendry so far as NXT champion. So I like what they're doing here. Plus, for the men's NXT championship picture, I think people are overhating it. People are overhating the men's NXT men's division. They're overhating it. Like, it's not as bad as y'all make it out to be. It's really not. It's actually a pretty solid group of guys. No, it's no Braun Breakers, no Carmelo Hayes, no Trick Williams. No, but it's actually a solid division. They're not great, but with time, it would eventually be a great men's division, in my opinion. They have talent. They have Jackson Drake, Keanu Carver, Sean Legacy, Joe Hendry, Ricky Saints. Like, they have some guys. They have some talent. Elo LaFleur, like the French luchador. They have some talent there. They do. So we just got to see it marinate for some. We just got to see how it plays out. But so far, I like what they're doing with the men's division. We end up getting a singles women's match between Jada Parker versus Blake Monroe. This match was it was a solid match. It was a solid match. There was one moment where it was a botch between Jada Parker and Blake, which Jada Parker got a lot of hate for, which is the Jada Parker hate is ridiculous on Twitter, which I find very funny that they're hating on her for that botch, but they don't hate on Kendall Gray, who also botched later in the show. But this was really good. This was a solid match. Ended out in a count out, which I kind of expected because you want to protect both wrestlers, but eventually one of them will have to lose a match here. Towards the end of the match, you end up getting Jada Parker ends up doing her like move where she gets on the ropes, like hops on the ropes and slams her opponent. Basically, she ends up doing like a hip attack, but instead of running into her opponent, she just hops off the ropes and then slams her ass on the opponent. She ends up doing that, but she ends up doing it like on the steel steps, which I thought was cool. Then a huge brawl plays out. Security try to break her away, but she can't. Blake Monroe ends up going into the crowd, running away. Getting Jada Parker ends up attacking all the security guys. I think she ends up spearing one of the security guys into the barricade, if I'm not mistaken. Or she did that to Blake Monroe. I'm not really sure. But this is the most dominant that Jada Parker has felt. Because typically Jada Parker is in this weird mode where they want to book her strong, but they also book her where she's not strong enough to beat the top tier talent. This is the strongest she has ever felt in NXT, to be honest with you, and she was extremely over in this scenario, man. I be telling Jada Parker is the face of that women's division. I don't know what else Shawn Michaels or NXT needs to see that she needs to be the clear face of the women's division, in my opinion, but she has it. She has it. In ring wise, I will admit she's not the greatest, but she isn't terrible in ring, man. She just has it, bro. I hope this is the feud that pushes her in the main event scene. I'm hoping it is. I'm not gonna get my hopes. Well, I'm not gonna get my. I do think this is the best opportunity to eventually push her because all the champions that she could potentially face are champions that are beatable. Izzy Dane is a beatable champion. JC Jane is a beatable champion. Typically, she never had a champion that she could really face that was a beatable champion with, due to, where they was booking her. Because she wasn't going to beat Stephanie. She wasn't going to beat Julia. Like, there was never really a time for her to really become champion. This is the perfect time after this feud. So, I'm hoping this is the case. I like what they're doing here. I really do. I like they're adding some more heat to this feud because they definitely needed some more heat. And I like what they're doing here, personally. So, this is the best Jada Parker has looked since, I'll argue, her feud with Michin, when she eventually had that streak for her. So, I like what they're doing here. Can't wait to see what happens next. Afterwards, we do end up getting a Dark State segment. They was cutting a promo. Dion was mentioning the NXT Championship, mentioning how he had a shortcoming, but he eventually will find his way back to the top. Then you get Dark State. You end up getting Saquon, Jay Cutler, and then Osiris cutting a promo for the NXT Tag Team titles. Then they end up getting interrupted by the Calling, OTM, and Hank and Tank. And then this eventually led to a brawl. Then this combination into a match later in the show between the Vanity Project and Hank and Tank. Vanity Project eventually ended up winning that match. And then Rob Stone ended up, well, Dr. Stone ended up eventually making it to where it was going to be a triple threat tag team match to determine a number one contender. But then after the Vanity Project beat Hank and Tank, they decided to make it a fatal four-way NXT Championship match. So I like what they did here. I like that they made all the tag teams interact with each other. Now here's the thing: they did this like a few months ago, where they did this exact same formula, and I got my hopes up. I'm not getting my hopes up. The men's NXT tag division isn't great. It's not good, but majority of it is due to bad booking. The talent isn't garbage. It's not great, but it isn't bad either. If they just do segments like this every other week, the men's tag team division wouldn't be bad. Majority of it is due to bad booking. All they have to do is just copy what they did with SmackDown's tag division a year ago. If they just copy that recipe, the NXT men's tag division would actually be solid. That's all they got to do. Integrate all the tag teams, make them have interactions with each other, and then have them feud. And then whenever they have like a one-on-one feud, well, a tag team feud between two tag teams, have the other tag teams feud with each other to eventually be a number one contender. That's all they have to do. But they do this weird thing where they don't book any other tag teams for months outside of Dark State, and then they only focus on Dark State, but they're not focusing on the other tag team. It's very weird. Like, if they just do this every week, where they just have 2 or 3 tag teams interacting with each other weekly, the NXT men's tag team division will actually be decent. It wouldn't be great. It will be a decent tag team division, though. So I hope, I'm not going to say I hope. I want them to continue to do this, but I'm not going to get my hopes up. But I did like what they did with the NXT men's tag teams on tonight's show. We finally get the main event. We got the Ring QCC versus Zaria. Winner of this match, well, whoever gets the pinfall for this match, becomes the number one contender for JC Jane's NXT Women's Championship. This was a really good match. Really good match. Throughout the match, we end up getting Zaria constantly making sure Ruca doesn't get the pinfall. But towards the end of the match, we end up getting a moment where Ruca accidentally tagged in Zaria for a tag. The referee ended up counting it as a tag, even though Ruca never tagged in Zaria at all, but they counted it as a tag. Then you end up getting Ruca goes for a Soul Snatcher. This is where the box happened, because Kendall Gray was supposed to lean in for the Soul Snatcher, but she ended up falling down before Soul could catch her. And then they sold it as if she hit it, but she clearly did it. Now, I don't really criticize botches as much, because it's going to happen. It happens. As long as it doesn't happen weekly, I don't care for botches that much. Now, the only time I really care about it is if you sell a botch that is very bad, and it's clear that it's bad and you shouldn't have sold it. This was a scenario where they shouldn't have sold the botch, because when I say she missed that Soul Snatcher, she missed it completely. That's my only concern. They shouldn't have sold it here. They should have just pretended like she didn't sell it and then try to do it again, because they had more TV time. It was still like 3 more minutes left in the show. They could have easily ran for like another 30 seconds to a minute and then do it, but I guess I just find it ironic that no one's complaining about Kendall Gray botching a Soul Snatcher, but when Jada Parker does it, everyone on Twitter all of a sudden criticized Jada Parker. Doesn't make sense. But nonetheless, this is of course going to cause tension between Zaria and Soul. Zaria was very upset at the fact that Sol Ruca got another title opportunity. It looks like they're teasing a potential Zaria costing Sol Ruca the match next week for the NXT Women's Championship. I'm gonna be honest here. I don't want that to happen. I don't. I need Sol Ruca to actually beat JC Jane. I actually do. Because what I need them to do is have Zaria and Sol Ruca, because clearly I'm assuming it's going to be the stand and deliver match. I'm assuming, right? If that is the case, you need to have that for the NXT Women's Championship. You need to be that needs to be the NXT Women's Championship match. Because if you're gonna have Zaria and Sol win again, Zaria needs to win that feud. So if they're gonna have Zaria turn on Sol during the match and have her cost her the match, my fear is that they're gonna have Sol Ruca win because logically speaking, it makes sense for Sol to win because she cost her the title. But if you have Sol win the title and then betray her, make her a #1 contender, this makes it more convincing that Zaria should win the match at Stand and Deliver for the NXT Championship. That's what they should go with the story. But I fear that that's not where they're going to go. They're going to have Zaria turn on Sol in the match, having a feud, because the main reason why she doesn't like Sol right now is because of her getting constant title opportunities. Make her get a title opportunity by her facing her former best friend. That would be perfect. But I feel like they're going to do the Izzy Dame and Tatum Paxley route, where they're going to have her turn and have her lose the championship. That's why I hate. Plus, if they do that, I don't know who dethrones JC Jane outside of Kendall Gray. And I like Kendall. I don't know if I want her to be NXT Women's Champion. That's my only thing. If she goes out the North American Championship, I'd be more on board with that. Mainly because I'm just not feeling her as a character right now. But that's also because NXT hasn't really developed her as a character. So we'll see how this plays out. But I'm hoping Sol Ruca actually wins. I don't want her to be champion for long. I only want her to be champion so someone else could be champion. But we'll see how it plays out. This was actually a great show. I thought the show was going to suck, mainly due to the men's division. But this was actually a great show. Shawn Michaels booked this show perfectly, in my opinion. It's crazy how this show is better than Raw, and they have significantly less talent than Raw. That is actually insane how this show clears Raw. But this was a great show overall. You got some of your overall thoughts, opinions down below. Make sure to like, comment, subscribe. Make sure you hit the notification bell so you don't miss any of my content. But yeah, that's it.